This is continuous coverage.
Continuous coverage
In the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell from the Hidden Killers podcast.
Hidden Killers podcast.
Go back to the courtroom now. This is segment number 2 of day number 2.
Did any of those tips lead to the location of JJ Vallow or Tylee Ryan?
No, they did not.
Okay. Your Honor, if we could have a brief sidebar.
Yes.
May I continue?
You may.
Detective, are you aware, excuse me, if there was ever a child protection action filed regarding JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
Yes, there was.
What county was that filed in?
Because we're going to object based on 404B. We previously objected on this, and I know the court's ruled on that, but we just like that put on the record.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. This does delve into some 404B issues, which were previously determined by the court in a ruling that was stated on the record on February 22nd, 2023. And for the reasons I would incorporate into that finding today, also incorporating the findings in that record, I'll overrule the objection, and you can continue this line of questioning, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. Were you in, what county was that filed in?
Madison, I believe.
Okay. Were you involved?
Yes, I was.
How so?
I was the one who wrote the affidavit.
Okay. Are you aware if Lori Vallow was ever ordered to produce her children to the Rexburg police?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Are you aware if she ever produced her children to the Rexburg police?
She did not.
Okay. Detective, through your investigation, were you ever able to locate the whereabouts of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell?
Yes, we were.
How did you do that?
Through cell phone data, tips coming in through the hotline that we had set up. We were able to determine that they were in Kauai.
Okay. Kauai isn't the island of Hawaii.
Correct.
Okay. Or one of the islands in Hawaii. Did you go to Kauai?
I did.
Why did you go there?
We went there to assist the Kauai Police Department with the service of that court order.
Okay. And do you know if she was served with that order?
She was.
Do you know what date?
She was served on January 25th, 2020.
Okay. Did you do anything else while you were there?
We did. We also assisted Kauai Police Department with the search warrant of Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow's rental vehicle, as well as their condo they were renting in Princeville.
Okay, and to clarify, did you perform those searches?
No, I did not.
Who performed those searches?
Kauai Police Department.
Okay. Were you present when their condominium was searched?
I was, yes.
Okay. And did you go in after the search was performed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you find JJ Vallow in that condominium?
No, sir.
Did you find Tylee Ryan?
No.
What did you observe in that condominium?
Normal furniture, clothes, beds. Just appeared that two adult people were living there.
Okay. And did you find any children's toys?
No.
Did you observe any children's medication?
No.
Did you observe any children's clothes?
No.
Any teenage girl clothes?
Nope.
Okay. Did you see anything that would indicate that minor children had lived there?
No.
Excuse me, had been living there?
No.
Okay. You stated that the rental car that Chad and Lori Daybell were using was searched as well?
That's correct.
Did you observe that search?
I did.
Okay. Did you aid in that search?
No, sir.
Okay, just observed it.
Correct.
Detective, I'm going to talk to you about the concept of proof of life. If I use the words proof of life, what does that mean?
Any documentation that would be able to confirm if somebody was still alive.
Okay. Did you ever, pursuant to your investigation, find a proof of, well, let me rephrase that. Pursuant to your investigation, what was the last date you are aware of proof of life for Tylee Ryan?
September 8th, 2019.
What was that proof of life?
It was a photograph taken in West Yellowstone.
Okay. And were you able to identify who Tylee Ryan was in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Pursuant to your investigation, what was the last date you were aware of proof of life for JJ Vallow?
September 22nd, 2019.
Okay. What was that proof of life?
It was a photograph taken of JJ, excuse me, sitting on a couch
Okay.
in defendant Vallow's front room.
All right. Your Honor, may I suggest this would be a good time for the mid-morning break?
That's fine. We can go ahead and take our mid-morning break then. We will go for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we will resume again until the lunch break. I would remind the people in attendance here, please take your personal effects with you and don't leave any bags or other items on the tables when you go. So we'll be in recess.
All right, please.
Okay, we will go back on the record on case CR 22-21-1624, State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow. Just finished our mid-morning break. We'll have the jurors return and you can continue your direct examination, Mr. Wood, of this witness.
All rise, please.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. Okay, I'll remind the witness you're still under oath, and Mr. Wood, you can continue your direct examination.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed what's been marked as State's Exhibit A through D.
Is there a number corresponding?
I apologize. State's Exhibit 9A through 9D.
Thank you.
Detective, can you look over those and let me know when you've had a chance to review them?
Okay.
Do you recognize State's Exhibit 9A through D?
Yes, I do.
What does that exhibit purport to be?
This is the 2018 Jeep Wrangler that I seized on November 4th, 2019.
Okay. And are those images true and accurate representations of what you witnessed with that Jeep?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 9A through D be entered into evidence.
Any objection? You may.
Thank you. These photographs, were they taken at a police station or somewhere, or were these taken at, where were they taken?
They were taken in our impound bay at the police department.
Okay. And the red evidence tape, that was put on at the police station when you got there?
That's correct.
Okay. How did it get to the police station?
It was towed.
Towed? Okay. And where was it taken from?
565 Pioneer, just outside of the garage of 175.
Okay. Thank you. No objection, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. So Exhibits 9A through D are all admitted to evidence and may be published.
Thank you. Detective, you testified about this Jeep earlier, so I realize we're going back a little bit. Can you describe what's shown in State's Exhibit 9A?
That is a photograph of the Jeep that I had seized, like I said earlier, from it's a view of the passenger side of the Jeep.
Okay. (9B).
That's the rear view of the Jeep with Texas plates that we were told about by Gilbert.
Okay. State's Exhibit 9C.
That's a photograph of the inside of the Jeep taken from the driver's door.
And 9E.
It's also a photograph of the inside of the Jeep from the passenger side.
I'd ask that witness be shown, states exhibits 8N and 8. Sorry, I'm not speaking into the microphone. I'd ask that the witness be shown states exhibits 8M and 8N again.
All right, we'll have the bailiff deliver those to the witness.
Detective, you testified earlier about these documents that they were found in the garage of apartment 175, correct?
That's correct.
And that one of those at least one of those documents is an email?
That's correct.
I asked you earlier who the email was from. Can you read the email address that document is sent from?
Judge, I would object here. I would ask the court to take the exhibit as it is, and the best evidence is the exhibit itself, not what can be read or what can't be read. In honesty, I can't read it, and I don't know. I just don't think it's appropriate to have him read.
Okay, I don't understand the objection. There's a photograph that's been admitted, as I understand, through prior offering, and it's in evidence. So to the extent the witness wants to address what's on the photograph, it's permitted. I don't know how hard it is to read or not. I don't have it in front of me.
To me, it looks like chaddaybell@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you. Detective, we had talked about, before the break, proof of life. And you spoke about some photos. Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 29A and State's Exhibits 13 and 14. Detective, before I ask any questions about that, I'm going to ask a few questions. Are you familiar with an iCloud account, Lori for Style at iCloud.com?
Yes, I am.
Is this an account that you have reviewed in the course of your investigation?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Detective, can you look at Exhibit 29A? What does that document purport to be?
It's a business certification record of the custodian of records of an Apple account.
Okay. Does it list the Apple account on that document?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. Does it state anywhere on that document if the record was made at or near the time or from information transmitted by someone with knowledge of that document?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does it state anywhere if that document, if those documents were kept in the regular course of the business?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Does it state that making those records was a regular practice of that business or of that activity?
Yes.
Okay. Is this document signed under penalty of perjury?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask that State's Exhibit 29A and the accompanying records be allowed into evidence.
All right, 29A is an exhibit. When you say the accompanying records, are you talking about Exhibit 14?
13 and 14, Your Honor,
Okay.
which I can lay further foundation for.
Well, let's start there with Exhibit 29A. Is there any objection to Exhibit 29A being introduced?
There is, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
May I have voir dire native objection?
You may.
Okay. Whose signature is on the document there?
Catherine Calvert,
Is it an actual signature or is it a e-signature?
an e-signature.
Okay, so it's not her actual signature?
Doesn't appear to be, no.
Okay. Have you talked to Catherine Calvert?
I have not, no.
In the course of your investigation, did you have an opportunity to contact anyone at Apple?
I've spoken with people at Apple throughout the course of the investigation, yes.
Who?
Off the top of my head, I don't have a name. Not in reference to Catherine Calvert, though.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask for a sidebar.
All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Wood. Upon discussing with counsel at sidebar, let me ask from the defense, is there any objection at this point to the admissions of Exhibit 29A and States 13 and 14?
I don't have a copy of 13 and 14, but 29A is the business record, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to that.
Okay, we'll start there then. Exhibit 29A is admitted into evidence, and you can continue your inquiry, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. Detective Hermosillo, through the course of your investigation, have you reviewed the iCloud account, Lori for Style at iCloud.com?
Yes, I have.
From reviewing that account, are you able to tell who it belongs to?
Yes.
Who did it belong to?
Lori Vallow,
How did you know that?
based on the records on the account
Okay.
and the photographs and everything attached to it.
Okay. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit, I believe it was 13 and 14? Do you recognize those documents?
I do.
What do they purport to be?
Photographs of JJ, Tylee, and Alex in Yellowstone. Also a photograph of JJ sitting on a couch in red pajamas.
Okay. And did you observe those photographs in that iCloud account?
Yes, I did.
And are those true and accurate representations of the photographs found in the iCloud account, in the Lori for Style iCloud account?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of State's Exhibits 13 and 14.
I'll take them up one at a time. On Exhibit 13, is there any objection?
13 is which one, the Yellowstone photo?
Yes.
No objection.
Exhibit 13 is admitted, and Exhibit 14 is a photo of a child on a couch.
No objection.
All right, Exhibit 14 is also admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I publish those to the jury?
Yes. Mr. Thomas, you were able to see these courtesy copies before we published them, correct?
Prior to publication, yes.
Okay, thank you. You can publish them, Mr. Wood, if you'd like.
Detective, what do you observe in State's Exhibit 13?
It's the photograph of JJ, Tylee, and Alex in Yellowstone.
How do you know that's Yellowstone?
I've been there before. I recognize it.
Okay. Detective, was there metadata associated with that photo?
There was.
Did it have a date?
September 8th, 2019.
Is that the same photo you referred to earlier when we were discussing proof of life?
That's correct.
Detective, what do you observe in State's Exhibit 14?
The picture of JJ Vallow in red pajamas on the couch.
Okay. Is that the same picture we were speaking about earlier when we spoke about proof of life?
Yes, sir.
Does that picture have metadata with it?
It does.
What was the date on that picture?
September 22nd, 2019.
Thank you. And perhaps I should have asked, what is metadata?
It's just information associated with the picture, date, time, things like that.
So, Detective, at this point, we've spoken about your search for JJ and Tylee. Did any part of your investigation include working with Fremont County?
It did.
Did any part of your investigation involve Tammy Daybell?
It did.
Okay. As part of your investigation, did you learn that Tammy Daybell had died?
Yes, I did.
Do you know when she died?
October 19th, 2019.
Okay, and did you learn of any other incident regarding Tammy?
Yes.
What was that?
That she was possibly shot at on October 9th, 2019, outside of their residence.
Okay. Detective, as part of your investigation, did you help execute a search warrant on the Daybell residence?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
June 9th, 2020.
What is the address of that residence?
202 North, 1900 East, Fremont County.
Okay. Now, just for clarification, what city is that listed in?
It's listed in Rexburg,
Okay.
but it's in Fremont County.
Okay, because Rexburg is normally in Madison County.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. As you executed that search warrant on June 9th, what was the first thing you did?
On June 9th, we got to Chad Daybell's residence at approximately 7 in the morning. We went and made contact, knocked on the front door. Chad Daybell's son, Mark Daybell, answered the door. He had a bowl of cereal in his hand. He was eating cereal. It was early in the morning. And we informed Mark why we were there and that we needed to speak with Chad Daybell.
Okay. Then what happened?
Mark told us that his dad, Chad, was still asleep, and directed us to Chad's room, which is it's like a loft room that was above the garage area. So he walked us through the house and to the stairwell of Chad's room.
Okay. And what did you observe then?
We walked up the stairwell, announced ourselves. Chad was still asleep in bed as we came around the little half wall. Chad sat up. We told Chad why we were there, that we had a search warrant, search the property and the residence. He asked if he can get dressed and get some clothes on. We allowed him to do that. And then he walked back downstairs with us into the kitchen area.
Okay. What happened then?
Chad asked to contact his attorney, and at that time it was Mark Means. Chad was allowed to contact his attorney. He spoke on the phone with his attorney in the kitchen area. His attorney asked to speak with one of our detectives, but was referred to speak with the prosecutor at that time.
Okay. What happened after that?
After that, we went into the front room where Chad was given a copy of the search warrant. He sat in the recliner closest to the door. He reviewed the search warrant. His children at that time were sitting on the couch across from him. He asked if he needed to leave or his children needed to leave, and we explained to them they didn't need to leave. They were free to stay, but if they stayed, they would be accompanied by an officer for safety reasons. At that point, his children stated they were going to go, and Chad stated he didn't know whether he was going to go or not, but asked to go make a phone call out in his vehicle that was parked in the driveway.
Okay. What did you do then?
At that time, the children were allowed to leave. We walked outside in the front yard area. Chad got into the driver's seat of a vehicle that was backed into the driveway. He was on the phone talking. In the meantime, there were the FBI ERT team, the evidence recovery team, arrived on scene along with other detectives now that the scene was safe to arrive. And they began marking off different areas in the backyard, just setting up for the search warrant and what we needed to do that day.
Okay. Who aided, who was a part of serving that search warrant that day in terms of law enforcement?
The FBI evidence recovery team, Fremont County Sheriff's Office, Rexburg Police Department, the Idaho Attorney General's Office. I believe that was it.
And did you assist in the actual search that day?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You spoke about Mr. Daybell, or Chad Daybell, sitting in a vehicle in his driveway, correct?
Correct.
Did you observe him, were you able to observe his behavior during that time?
I was. Mr. Daybell was sitting in the driver's side facing west. He was on the phone, and while he was on the phone, he had the phone in his right hand. He was intently looking over his right shoulder. He would talk for a second, look back over his right shoulder, watching what was going on behind him to his right. So we positioned ourselves to see exactly what Mr. Daybell was concerned or looking at. And when we positioned ourselves that way, we could see Mr. Daybell
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is information that's calling for speculation, and he's speculating about what Mr. Daybell was seeing at the time.
Your Honor, I can ask some more questions.
All right, the objection is sustained, but nothing to strike on the response yet. If you'll ask another question, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. At any time, did you go stand by where Mr. Daybell was sitting?
We did.
Okay. Did you speak with him at all?
We did.
What did you say to him?
I asked Mr. Daybell if he needed a coat, because at that time he was getting out of the vehicle.
Okay. You testified that he had been looking over his shoulder.
Correct.
And that you perceived he was looking in a specific direction.
Correct.
When you went and stood by where Mr. Daybell was, did you look in the direction that it appeared he had been looking in?
I did.
What did you observe when you looked in that direction?
I observed the tree and the pond area on that side of the property.
Okay. After that, what did you do to aid in the search of Chad Daybell's property?
We were given certain tasks by the head of the FBI ERT to do different things. There were multiple people there. So at that point, my original task was to sift through the fire pit that was located on the property.
And what was the purpose of that?
To see if there was anything of evidentiary value in the fire pit.
Okay. You spoke about a pond area. Did you observe any activity by the search team in the pond area that day?
Yes, I did.
When did that start?
Like, time-wise?
Yes.
Roughly 9 o'clock, maybe,
Okay.
in the morning.
And what did you observe?
While we were sifting through the fire pit, there were a lot of people going towards the pond area underneath the tree, and so we were called over to assist in that location.
One moment. Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be hand States Exhibit 10A, which will be offered as a demonstrative exhibit. Just that one for now. Detective Hermosillo, do you recognize States Exhibit 10A?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you produce States Exhibit 10A?
I did.
What tool did you use to do that?
Google Earth?
Okay. And do you recognize the property in 10A?
Yes.
Okay. Was the purpose of producing that to aid the jury in understanding the various locations you're talking about today?
That's correct.
Okay. And is that have you been on that specific property?
Yes, sir.
And is that a true and accurate representation of the Daybell property?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I ask that States Exhibit 10A be entered for demonstrative purposes to aid the jury in understanding these locations.
Any objection?
May I aid in an objection, Judge? May I voir dire?
Yes.
So you indicate that you are depicting this as a true and accurate depiction of the property. Have you ever done a flyover of this property?
No.
Okay. So you've never seen the aerial view of what this property looks like?
Not the aerial view, no. But I've walked the perimeter of that property several times.
And you looked up
I would imagine I would have looked up at some point.
and you saw the sky?
Probably.
And you don't know what it looks like from the sky, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to object, Judge. He doesn't have the proper personal, he doesn't have the foundation to be able to say that this is what it is, what it purports to be.
All right, what's the response from the state on the objection?
Your Honor, the detective himself has been on the property multiple times. As he's testified, he was able to produce this just using Google Earth. And it's simply to aid the jury in the location of the items he'll be discussing today. For demonstrative purposes, I think the state, I think he is more than laid adequate foundation for that document to come in.
All right, the objection's overruled. The court does find there's been sufficient foundation laid to introduce this, not for evidentiary purposes, but for demonstrative purposes to assist the jury in reviewing or referring to locations. So for that limited purpose, the exhibit is admitted. States 10A.
Detective, earlier you had talked about the front driveway. Is that... Can you see where I'm pointing with my pen?
Objection is leading, Judge.
I'm just
Overruled.
asking a question. Is this
It's a leading
the...
question. I'm objecting to the...
I overruled it, Mr.
Okay.
Thomas.
Is this the front driveway you spoke of earlier?
That's correct.
Okay. To your knowledge, is all of the property in this picture Chad Daybell's property?
Yes.
Okay. Is this the home? Can you see where my pen is pointing?
Yes.
Is this the home you went into when you made contact with Mr. Daybell that day?
Yes.
Okay. Is this the pond area that you referred to earlier?
Yes, it is.
And you mentioned a tree by it. Is this that tree?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Detective, you talked about activity going on there. Did you go over to that area?
I did.
Okay, and what did you observe happening there?
Initially, we had located an area of concern because there was longer grass and weeds that were longer than about a 4x2 section where there was shorter grass and just a little bit of dirt showing. So initially, that's what caught our attention in that area.
Okay. What happened there?
The evidence recovery team began doing their thing as far as marking it off and getting it ready to excavate.
Okay. Did you witness that excavation?
I did.
As that excavation took place, what did you observe?
I observed the ERT team remove the top layer of soil in that area. As they began removing the top layer of soil, it began to expose 3 large white rocks. And at that point, there was a strong odor of, through my training experience, it was a decomposing body.
Okay. Is that something you've smelled before?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Did they uncover those rocks?
They did. Under the 3 large rocks, there was 2 pieces of wood paneling, thin wood paneling, under the rocks.
Okay. Were those removed?
They were removed.
Okay. What happened after that? Or what did you observe after that?
Once we removed the wood paneling, you could definitely see a difference in soil. The soil began to look moist. So you had a definite distinction between the soil on the outside and the soil in the middle of this area where we began excavating. And so the ERT team slowly, methodically started brushing away the moist soil where we were at.
Okay, and I just want to ask you a clarifying question. Were you physically aiding in the excavation?
Not then, I was not, no.
Okay. Were you watching the evidence, the FBI team do that?
Yes, I was watching them do that.
Once those panels were, well, you've already testified to that. What did you observe next?
They began removing the soil. Once they started removing the soil, slowly, methodically, we began to see a black, round object starting to protrude through the dirt. Just a few inches deep. It wasn't very deep at all before we saw the round object. It appeared, looking at it, appeared to be like a texture of a plastic bag.
Okay. Did they continue to uncover that?
They did.
What did you observe?
They scraped away some more soil around that round object, and it began to take the shape of the crown of, it looked like the crown of a head protruding through the dirt.
Okay. What action was taken next?
We continued, or they continued to dig around that, what we started to call the burial site, and eventually exposed what appeared to be a small body wrapped in black plastic.
Okay. At any time, was that plastic cut into?
The top of the plastic was cut into where it had been exposed on the crown of the head, yes.
Okay. And do you know what the purpose for that was?
We wanted to see exactly what it was without manipulating or damaging any of the evidence. So the ERT leader, Steve Daniels, used a sharp instrument, made a slit down the top of the plastic. It exposed a piece of white plastic underneath that. A slit was made in the white plastic, and eventually we were able to see that it looked like brown human hair.
Okay. What did you observe at that point?
At that point, we were then told that Chad Daybell was leaving his daughter's residence at a high rate of speed. His daughter lives caddy corner to his residence. So we were told he was leaving at a high rate of speed. And at that time, Chad Daybell was pulled over and taken into custody.
Okay. At that time, did you return to what you referred to as the burial site by the tree?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did you observe after that?
Eventually, all the dirt was removed from the small body wrapped in plastic. The body was then photographed. ERT took their measurements. The body was eventually removed from the burial site and put into a black body bag, which was locked for evidence purposes and placed in the back of the coroner's vehicle on scene.
I want to ask you a clarifying question. You're referring to a body. Had you, other than the slit in the head area, you testified correct that this body was in a black plastic bag? Correct. Did you remove any of the other black plastic at that time?
No, it was just, when I testified to that, it was just the shape of a small body wrapped in black plastic.
Okay. And you state, what was done with that after it was removed from that site?
It was placed in the back of the coroner's vehicle and driven to the morgue by the Fremont County coroner and a Fremont County deputy. Myself and Lieutenant Ron Ball followed behind that vehicle all the way until we got to the morgue where it was turned over.
Okay. After you took that body to the morgue, what did you do?
We went back to the Daybell residence to assist with further excavation.
Okay. Was there another area that was searched on the Daybell residence that day?
There was.
And if I could ask, is there a pointer that the witness can use?
I think we do have a laser pointer available.
This right here.
For the record, Mr. Woodland, there is pointing. If you would just verbally describe what's being pointed out, that'll help it be clear later when it's read.
Thank you. Detective, before we move on, can you use the pointer to point to the area we've recently been discussing?
Objection vague.
Can you
Discuss the
point
whole
to the
property,
area
Judge.
where...
Hang on a sec. Pending objection overruled, you can inquire.
Okay. Well, and to clarify, can you point to the area where the body was found in black plastic?
There is a tree right here. On this side of the tree, just underneath, the body was found in black plastic just underneath that tree.
Okay. Thank you. You had mentioned a fire pit earlier.
Yes, sir.
Can you point to where that is?
The fire pit is right around here.
Okay. All right. So you testified you went up to the morgue at the hospital, and you, at that point, you came back to the Daybell residence on June 9th, correct?
Correct.
And I had asked if there was another area being searched that day. Can you point to where that other area is?
Right here.
Okay.
Could you describe that, Mr.
Yes.
Wood, please?
Can you describe where you're pointing?
So, through the course of our investigation, it was brought up that that was known to the Daybell family as the pet cemetery. And they described the pet cemetery as having a little black dog statue that was right next to the pet cemetery, so that's how we knew it as the pet cemetery. And here there's a black dog statue, and so This was the pet cemetery area.
Thank you. And what did you observe when you returned from the morgue?
When I returned, the ERT team had already began excavating a part of that pet cemetery. They had dug down a little bit, not too much, and that's when I arrived back on scene.
Okay. And what did you do at that point?
At that point, I walked over to the pet cemetery area. I began observing. In digging down, they located items of interest that we needed to slow down and dig more methodically. So at that point, a few of us got on our hands and knees and began digging around this moist section of dirt.
Okay. And then what did you observe?
As we began digging, we were on our hands and knees. We started to uncover just burnt flesh, charred bone. The smell was, again, of a decomposing body. We had to take turns digging because the smell was so bad. We could only dig for a couple minutes. So we slowly began digging that.
When you say slowly, what tools were you using to dig?
Paint brushes, little trowels, just something so we can get just a little bit of dirt up without damaging anything in the ground.
Okay. And what did you find in that spot?
Eventually we uncovered bits and pieces of Tylee, who we assumed was Tylee, that had been burned. There were pieces of bone, like I said, charred flesh. Just the best I can describe is just globs of flesh that were falling apart.
Okay. And did you keep digging down?
We did.
Did you find anything further?
Once we removed some of that, underneath there was another round glob of, and sorry for that's the best way I can describe it. Just burnt flesh, bone, all kind of what appeared to be put in a green bucket. The bucket had melted, so it was kind of disformed, and the flesh and bone and was all kind of stuffed in that melted bucket, and so we began digging around that as well.
Okay. And what happened as you did that?
We were able to, like I said, we were only able to work a couple minutes before we'd have to get switched out by other detectives. We were able to get down all the way to the bottom of the mass, and what the goal was try to get to the bottom to be able to lift it onto a tarp or a body bag. As we got down to the bottom, there was a partial human skull underneath the melted bucket.
Okay. Did you attempt to lift it out?
We did.
What happened?
There were 3 or 4 of us that kind of climbed in this little hole, and we attempted to lift it out, but it kind of broke apart because it wasn't really being held in by anything. And so it kind of broke apart, and we had to go in and pick up the pieces out of the hole and put them back into the body bag.
Okay. Detective, at this point in your search, was this still on June 9th, or was this another day?
June 9th.
Okay. At any point, did you have to stop working on June 9th?
We did. It was getting late in the evening. And so we ended up just deciding to secure the scene and be done for the day.
Okay. And when you say secure the scene, what did that mean?
Well, the scene was roped off with crime scene tape. There were several officers from Rexburg Police Department, Fremont County Sheriff's Office, that were scheduled to be there all night to watch the scene. We had 2 big light trucks that were given to us by the fire department, also Fremont County Sheriff's Office, to illuminate the scene all night to make sure that the scene wasn't compromised throughout the night.
Okay. And so the search continued on June 10th?
Correct.
What did you observe on June 10th?
We went back to that second burial site where Tylee was buried. Continued to excavate, get all the pieces and parts out of that hole that we needed to get out. We dug down once we got all the pieces and the bones and flesh out of the hole. We dug down a little further because the ground was still moist, the soil was still moist, so we wanted to make sure we got everything. There were bits and pieces that we found. Once we dug down more, there were teeth and different parts a little bit further down, but we just finished with that, and then Tylee was also put into a body bag and transferred to the morgue in the same manner that we took JJ.
And was that at the morgue at Madison Memorial Hospital?
It was.
In Rexburg, Idaho?
Correct.
This is continuous coverage
Continuous coverage.
in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell from the Hidden Killers podcast.
Hidden Killers Podcast.
There is more to come. Keep it here. Press subscribe wherever you download podcasts so you don't miss it. We're bringing you all of the audio from day number 2. Press subscribe and stick around.